When the museum opened the Chipperfield building, the modernism and the contemporary art that was in the third floor moved over there. And so we began thinking about reimagining the American collection in these spaces. When I came here 2 years ago, that was one of my things, one of my priorities to do. And so now 2 years later, we've finished it. Close to 20% of the works that are on display have not been seen for the past decade or probably even longer. And so that brings a whole new dialogue and a new experience for St. Louisans who've maybe come to the museum over and over again to see things that have not been up and that they haven't seen next to works that they know quite well. And so to think about what kinds of new things does that tell. The galleries run chronologically. They are organized by theme within those chronologies. There are 8 galleries that have been completely reinstalled and reimagined. One of the things that I tried to think about when I was imagining the collection was its resonance and how it might have a dialogue with the architecture and the shape and the size of the different galleries and the light that it receives, and thinking of it really as an entire experience. So, for instance, one of our galleries is quite small and it has a very low ceiling. You know, if we think about those characteristics and use them to their strengths and what kinds of artwork have a resonance with that? Well, still life does. Still life is very intimate and it asks us to sort of draw close. And so you feel like you're in a very intimate space that highlights and emphasizes the strengths of that gallery and the strengths of the art that's in it. This rich red, which is so post-Civil War, or the yellow that's in the colonial and federal era. These are the colors and the light and the moldings that you would have expected in the period in which these artworks were created. Some of these galleries might seem that they have things that are unrelated. So for instance, in the gallery where we are right now, there is neoclassical sculpture and American landscapes, and that might seem odd, but in fact, the reason why they are put together is because of the idea or the theme that ties them together. So in this gallery, it's a kind of New World and Old World context and how those ideas in the 19th century really built on each other and drew out each other, and one could only really be understood from the perspective of the other. We might think of abstraction as having a story and figurative painting as having a story, but in the early 20th century, they came from the same moment, from this new city and the industrialization and the modernization of living in a city in the early 1900s. Putting them together in a gallery really fleshes that out and really lets us understand that moment and the dynamic quality of that moment in the American experience. Part of being in a museum is that it's not just a slide, it's not just a picture in a book, it's an entire space.